and the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Mr. Tom Fletcher. We thank them for informative briefings. We also listen very closely to the representative of the civil society, Ms. Summer Nasser. The situation in Yemen continues giving rise to serious concern. The internal political and the socio-economic instability continue against a background of a considerable risk that active hostilities may resume. The number of armed incidents along the front line has gone up, and any such incident could become an uncontrolled clash. The country is feeling lack of foodstuffs, medicines, and fuel. There are power outages, and there is a growing inflation, which leads to rising prices. All of this compounds the everyday difficulties ordinary Yemenis feel. The number of people who are in need of humanitarian assistance is at a critically high level. It's almost 20 million people. Another problem that's remaining is insufficient funding for the humanitarian response plan, and the already paltry resources of the UN in this country are dwindling very rapidly. To date, the issue having to do with the UN and humanitarian staff detained by Ansar Allah is unresolved. But the main reason for the worsening situation on the ground, as well as for the undermining of humanitarian efforts, the main reason for that is a lack of progress in the political track. We still see no alternative to resuming a sustainable negotiating process following the roadmap for the Yemeni settlements. The provisions of this have to be endorsed as binding agreements between warring parties. What is important is to make sure that work continues to create the conditions for a fully fledged inclusive dialogue, including all of the Yemeni protagonists, including Ansar Allah. We do support the mediation efforts made by Envoy Grunberg. It's important to make sure that we do not lower our level of attention to organizing negotiations between countries, as well as towards stimulating small steps aimed at strengthening interaction between them on practical issues. This is the only line that could lead us to sustainable peace. Further stagnation of the situation could result in large-scale destabilization, deteriorating situation in the region as a whole. Mr. President, the internal problems in Yemen are accompanied by the also difficult situation in the nearby marine areas. After several months of relative calm, unfortunately, we're witnessing renewed attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. We condemn the most recent incidents, which resulted in a loss of life, and we express condolences to their families and wish a speedy recovery to the injured. Russia does not accept any action which threatens the safety of crews, cargo, and also threatens the freedom of international navigation. And we urgently call on avoiding such steps and restoring the calm in the waters of Yemen. Another very alarming point here is continued confrontation between Israel and Ansar Allah. There are increasing strikes against the territory of the Jewish state, including civilian objects, and also the disproportionate attacks by Western Jerusalem against the territory of sovereign Yemen. For example, in the early hours of the 7th of July, Israel had a massive strike using missiles and bombs on entities in Hodeidah, and Hodeidah is the area through which most of the vital goods arrive in the country. Civilian infrastructure entities were struck, including the ports of Hodeidah, Salifa, Ras Isa, and a power station, Ras Katif. The Galaxy Leader vessel was critically injured, and the fragments of this strike hit the Seer tanker in Ras Isa, and Russian sailors were on board of that vessel. We do not support the strikes against Israel, but I would like to underscore that such disproportionate actions on the part of Western of Jerusalem are unacceptable and could lead to the most severe consequences. What we need to do is to make sure that the vicious circle of violence is broken.